Hi, everyone. This is Paula, your holistic health coach. Today, we are going through part two of Rob's new workout program. So, we're super excited about it. And you always talk about 7 major movement patterns, and this particular program includes 8 elements. And I kind of like to go through what those 8 elements are to let the listeners know exactly what is these 8 elements to the workout. The first one is the neuro reset.
You know what? The one thing is
explain it?
just before we do that, I want to talk about there is 7 major movement patterns or primal movement patterns. So the human body is designed to squat. It's designed to bend. It's designed to push. It's designed to pull. It's designed to lunge and obviously gait. So that's, walking, jogging, running. And so when you take a look at an exercise program, you really want to incorporate those components just because that is how the body's designed to work. So if you can't squat, bad things can happen. You can't bend with a hinge, like if you're picking a heavy object off the floor, bad things can happen. If you don't have that extensibility or that flexibility through the shoulder complex when you're doing something where you're pushing something up, bad things can happen. So you have to have the 7 primal movement patterns in your program at some level. And then the human body is also designed to work in 3-dimensional planes. So like if I'm just going to use my neck, where I would actually go in this plane where I'm going front to back, that's what's called a sagittal plane. If I go side to side, that's what's called the frontal plane. And then if I rotate, that's what's called the transverse plane. So it's just like our neck, our torso, our core area works in those 3-dimensional planes as well. So we need to make sure that we are executing movements that will actually go through those 3 planes of movement, something that integrates the 7 primal movement patterns. And what I find with a lot of people, particularly as they get older, they tend to gravitate towards machines and they think this is safer. But unfortunately, it doesn't do anything to fortify function. And because it's on one fixed axis, you don't have to coordinate, you don't have to balance. And so therefore, some of the very small stabilizing or neutralizing muscles that are super important for joint integrity are not challenged. And it leaves you very vulnerable when you build up your global muscles like your chest and your thighs and your biceps and your triceps and your shoulders. You build up those global muscles and you get them stronger and stronger, but the very small neutralizing and stabilizing muscles, the discrepancy becomes further and further. And so that's what really leaves people vulnerable if they're exercising on machines. Now, there's a place for machines, but I very rarely will I encourage someone to work out on a machine unless they're trying to isolate a weakened muscle and then teach themselves to integrate that with these other movement patterns.
Okay, that sounds great. I'm just wondering, so can you explain a little bit more about the neuro reset? Like, what is the neuro reset specifically?
Well,
is it just about activating the nervous system?
Yes. In fact, when I take a look at the 7 major primal movement patterns and 3 planes of movement, and then within this workout, I incorporate the 8 elements. And the first element that you were talking about is the neuro reset.
Yeah.
And so there's a couple of different neurological areas that we want to address. Number one, and, obviously you'll agree with this, Paula, but probably the most neglected and one of the least talked about systems in the body is the lymphatic system. Yeah. And, everyone talks about the muscular system, and they talk about the digestive system, and they talk about the endocrine system, but not a lot of people talk about the lymphatic system, which is basically your body's second circulatory system. And essentially it's our garbage dump. And if we think of our nodes, our lymph nodes, and we've got points where the nodes cluster, there's over 700 clusters of nodes. And so in this program, what I do is I show you how to stimulate these neurolymphatic points to really turn on your lymphatic system, because when you're exercising, you're actually producing waste. And for most people, and Paula, you see this all the time, but people are so toxic. They're toxic because of the food they're eating, their personal care products, the air we're breathing, the water we're drinking. There's a lot of toxins. And if our detoxification pathways are compromised at all, then, we can really run into some serious health challenges. And so drainage really must supersede what you're putting into your body. So I like to say, take the garbage out before you bring the groceries in, right? So if you think of your lymph nodes as little tiny toilets, I mean, imagine what it would be like if you had clogged toilet. I mean, and you had 700 of them, it'd be a real mess. But what we need to do is we need to stimulate these lymphatic points so we can really start flushing out some of these toxins. And like you said, when you're exercising, you're producing this metabolic waste. And if you're already toxic, that can actually create too much toxic load. So the first thing I do is I take people through these neurolymphatic stimulation points. It's kind of like by stimulating these points, it's like flipping the switch, right? So we flip the switch to the filtration system, which is your lymphatic system. And then the second thing we want to do is we want to make sure that your nervous system is functioning at a high level. Because if you think of your muscles like lights in your house, what I want you to think about with the nervous system is that is the electrical current that turns those lights on. Well, there's specific points we can stimulate, which is, again, like flipping on a switch to turn on all the muscles, to make sure the muscles are turning on, because there's many things that will stress out your nervous system and it actually shuts these muscles down. So with the neural resets that I teach in the program, it teaches you to stimulate your lymphatic system, which again is such a critical, underrated system in the body that really everyone needs to pay attention to. And it can really, really help with not only strengthening your immune system, but for a lot of people, when it comes to working out, what they want to do is lose weight. One of the best ways to be able to lose weight is to make sure you've got your detoxification pathways optimized and your lymphatic system is working efficiently. So we go through the points. It's the first thing I do is I stimulate the lymphatic points, then stimulate the nervous system. So you're turning on your muscles. Now you can start your workout, right? And it takes probably, to go through all these points, it takes under 5 minutes. And what I like to tell people is, even if you didn't do this workout that I put together and you want to do another type of workout, just learning how to stimulate your lymphatic points and stimulate your nervous system, that's going to serve you well, whatever you're doing. So that's really the first of the elements that I've incorporated into the program.
That's great. The second element that you wanted to talk, or that's part of the program, is breath work or breathing. So isn't breathing like people just breathe? A lot of times people just say, you know what? I just breathe. What do I need to know about my breath?
Yeah.
What does the breath actually do?
Obviously, people that have spent any amount of time with me know how much I value and how much I focus on breathing. I mean, It's the number one movement pattern in the human body. I mean, we are breathing, well, besides your heart beating, but we're breathing about 20 to 25,000 times every day.
Wow.
And so that puts us in a position where we can either optimize our health or detract from our health. Biochemically, orthopedically, our immune system. I mean, there's so many pieces to this. And another thing too is most people, either when they're working out, they tend to hold their breath, they breathe too shallow, they breathe too rapidly. And what happens is they oftentimes will stimulate more sympathetic upregulation, which means that, it locks their body into fight or flight. And through this process, what I teach people to do is upregulate more parasympathetic activity so you can actually get a great workout, build muscle, improve cardiovascular fitness, improve flexibility, mobility, and walk away from the workout feeling refreshed, and really mentally alive, and physically, you don't feel so beat up. And especially with people as they get older. Now, I say with people getting older because, we've got a lot more elements involved. I mean, so many more stressors, and our body just has, I think, accumulated so much more than younger people. And, I mean, younger people might be a little more resilient just because their hormone profile is different. So, but with that being said, there's many young people that, have a tremendous amount of stressors in their life that could, adversely affect their health. So, getting back to the neuro reset and the breathing, that's something that everyone needs to integrate into their routines. But the breathing is such a game changer. Literally everybody that is on my treatment table, and when I say everybody, I mean everybody, has faulty respiratory mechanics that are either leading to or creating more of a negative impact on their orthopedic health. So it doesn't matter if you're talking jaw pain or neck pain or shoulder pain or back pain. All of those orthopedic problems have their roots in faulty respiratory mechanics. It's across the board. It's literally everybody. And then, with people that suffer with anxiety or depression, faulty respiratory mechanics, sleep issue, faulty respiratory mechanics. So I can go on and on for a long time about breathing, but it's a critical component that needs to be integrated without question. That's another thing. If you're working out and you're not breathing properly, you're being inefficient. If you're working out and you're not breathing properly, you're setting yourself up for orthopedic problems. So for a lot of people, I shouldn't even say a lot, it's pretty much everybody. I mean, it's staggering. And I've worked with Division I athletes. I've worked with some of the local professional athletes with the Wild and the Minnesota Twins, and even those guys, high-level athletes. And what you're finding is breath work is gaining a little bit more traction today. There's more and more people talking about it, but I'm still surprised how few people know about the importance of breathing. And, I'm telling you what, if you're listening to this, chances are pretty good that you've got faulty respiratory mechanics, unless you've worked with me.
That's true. It's pretty much what I see across the board as well. People definitely breathe higher up in their chest, and it's you can tell because those are the people that are super anxious. So teaching them to being able to correct that is really important for their health.
Well, one of the things too, I want to make a point of too, is when people are more of a vertical breather, like someone who's struggling with anxiety or even like an asthmatic, what happens is they become what's called an overbreather. Okay, so they increase the rate of respiration, but the ratio, and the body's designed to work in homeostasis, right? It's designed to be balanced. And so if you're taking in too much oxygen, people think, oh, that's a good thing, right? No, you have to have a balance between oxygen and carbon dioxide, because if we're breathing like this, we're upregulating sympathetic activity. So we're stimulating fight or flight. And it's through the that exhale, that carbon dioxide, where we're blowing off that CO2, that's where we stimulate parasympathetic activity. And we have to have a good balance between your sympathetic nervous system and your parasympathetic nervous system. We have to have a balance between oxygen and carbon dioxide. Breathing is so important, so important.
Well, number 3 is mobility. Tell us about mobility. I don't know what that even means, really. You're talking about a workout program.
Well, mobility, obviously people are familiar with flexibility, but mobility is another underrated, I guess, in terms of the components of fitness. It's one of those that doesn't get enough emphasis, kind of one of those elements that doesn't get enough emphasis. So if we think about mobilizing like the wrist joint, right? So you take a look at it moves in like a 3-dimensional plane. Like I can do like shoulder circles. So what we want to do is we want to mobilize every one of your joints. And so the more you move or articulate your joints, especially as you get older, it's like oil for the Tin Man, right? It lubricates your joints. It breaks up scar tissue. It breaks up any adhesions that have been formed through restricted movement. So if I'm sitting, at a computer and I'm hunched over like this, all this fascia gets tight. And what happens is, because the fascia and the muscles get tighter, my joint now does not articulate or move freely and optimally. So I want to make sure that I'm always integrating mobility work in my routine. I would rather see someone be slightly tight with their flexibility, but have optimal joint mobility, because it's when we lose that joint mobility that we really, really can get into some major orthopedic problems. We're going to start to really alter how we move. And when we alter how we move, we compensate. And that leaves us more vulnerable to injury as well.
Makes sense. Why don't you elaborate on the next one, which is flexibility, which you already talked a little bit about, but let's talk a little bit more deeply of the flexibility component to the workout.
Yeah, with the flexibility, there's many different types of, getting back to breath work. There's as many types of breath work as there are diets out there. And when it comes to flexibility, there's a lot of different forms of flexibility. And so there's kind of the slow boat to China, where you can make progress, but it's slower. What I've tried to do is integrate and implement more techniques to accelerate the flexibility, but it's all done in really a flow fashion. And so you go from strength and mobility to flexibility. So it's a flow of all these different movements and all these different elements in it. And that's why breathing is another critical aspect of flexibility, because if you're going to stretch a muscle and you're holding your breath, you're creating excessive tension in the body, and the nervous system is going to say, wow, I'm in danger here. I'm not going to allow my body to really stretch as ideally as I could. So, learning to breathe will really enhance everything, and it enhances your strength and your mobility and your flexibility. But it's really, really important for flexibility in how you breathe. And, what I find more than anything is, people get so tight as they get older, they kind of lose their taste for wanting to stretch. And, that's why if you can integrated all into one workout far better, because, you know, if you work out, sometimes people are like, well, I got my workout in, I don't have enough time to stretch, right? Maybe they're on a treadmill for 30 minutes, or maybe they're doing some video, or maybe they're even in a class and, you know, they're not getting all of those elements. Well, when do you get them in, right? Again, do you want the kind of the life of feeling like you are, you know, your self-care is like a part-time job, you know, or would you rather get everything in, you know, a 30 to 40-minute workout? So a lot of
I mean, I
times,
think that,
because people are busy, they need to.
I mean, I think part of that is that people don't understand the importance of the flexibility side of it or the stretching side of it. You know, they'll skip that part of the workout because they're like, I want to get the part done that actually is going to give me the results. They don't realize that what flexibility actually offers you as you age, like how important that is. Wouldn't you agree? I mean,
Yeah, and that's a great point. You said to get results. Well,
yes,
depends on what the results are, but the big driver for a lot of people when it comes to working out is they want to look better, right? For a lot of
yes.
people, I want to lose some body fat and I want to tone up a little bit. So that's back to the, you know, focusing on aesthetics over functionality that we talked about in the last video. But I think, you know, in terms of mobility and flexibility and just giving you the fluidity of movement, you should be able to move freely. I mean, you go to a third world country, you know, they don't have chairs. They're footing, or they're sitting in a full squat. They don't have toilets. They're, you know, moving their balls from a full squat. You know, when they're cooking, you know, sometimes they're in a full
Unbelievable.
squat. When they're eating, they're in a full squat. Well, why can't we do that? Well, the reason we can't do it is because we don't do it and we don't pursue it. That's part of, you know, perfect example is if you watch a young child, let's say a 4 or 5-year-old, and they drop something on the ground. As an adult, we bend over at the waist and pick it up. A little kid like that just goes into this perfect little squat and they grab it. And so the reason we don't do it is because many of us have lost that ability to do it. And so we bend over at the waist instead. And, you know, it's one of those things that people don't think about, but once it's brought to their attention, they realize how stiff they are, how they lack fluidity with their movement, right? And part of that comes from joint and muscle restriction.
The next part of your workout is stability. So tell us a little bit about stability and how that's incorporated into your workout.
Yeah, you know, I was talking about earlier how people, you know, definitely build up their global muscles. They get stronger in their global muscles, but the very small neutralizers and stabilizers that help stabilize a joint, like a rotator cuff. There's 4 rotator cuff muscles. Their job is to help offer support and stabilization in the shoulder joint. If you've got low back or hip problems, it's because your deep abdominal wall, those very small spinal stabilizers, are not functioning optimally. So, you know, within the workout, it was imperative to me that, you know, I worked on stabilization movements that would help people with maintaining good joint integrity, because you don't want to look really good and feel like crap, right? And what's going to make you feel like crap? You know, if your joints hurt, you know, if you're not very flexible, you feel tight, you're not going to feel as good. But, you know, the stability is critical for maintaining really good joint health.
And especially in menopause and andropause, it definitely causes a lot of joint stiffness, and people experience a lot of that. So that's a really great part of that workout. You
Yeah.
also incorporate cardio into it as well.
Yeah. You know, the one thing is more and more people today are familiar with like high intensity interval training, where you're primarily doing like strength training in a circuit fashion. So you're going to get tremendous cardiovascular benefits, whereas someone might think of aerobic activity like running or cycling or being on an elliptical, right? So you're only working one component. You never only want to work one component, because, you know, anytime you have discrepancies, that's going to leave you vulnerable to, you know, either getting injured. You're, you know, with strength training is so critical because you've got not only building muscle, which increases metabolic activity, increasing your metabolism, helping you burn fat, but as you get older, you're able to maintain greater independence. And another thing too is bone density. Bone density is huge. And if you're not doing, you know, some sort of resistance training, then it can lead to osteopenia, osteoporosis. And of course, there's other biochemical factors involved there. But we have to take a look at the benefits of exercising, what that can do. But in terms of cardio versus aerobic activity, you're going to get tremendous cardiovascular benefits going from exercise to exercise. And, you know, that's really what I try and do in the workout: stimulate cardio through breath and through the movement, but in a way where you're not feeling beat up. You're feeling more refreshed.
We already read through number 7, which is strength. Do you want to elaborate anything else on strength, or should we move on to the 8th one?
Well, the only thing I guess I would add to strength is women sometimes don't feel comfortable doing strength training. Either, you know, they go into a gym and they're intimidated, or, you know, they don't necessarily know exactly what to do. So they gravitate towards the machines. Like you said, that can create more dysfunction in their body because it doesn't do anything to fortify the functionality of their body. So, you know, you're seeing more and more women that especially like with the boot camps and stuff that are out there. Obviously more women are partaking with routines like that, but it's critical. I mean, walking is one of the best things you can possibly do for your mind, for stimulating your lymph. I mean, there's just so many awesome benefits to just walking. But if I could only do one type of exercise program, I would want to make sure I'm integrating all the elements I could, you know, to optimize my own functionality. You know, this workout the focus wasn't just on, you know, getting stronger or getting more flexible or getting leaner. It was about, how can I stimulate my lymphatic system? How can I stimulate my immune system, all while I'm doing a workout? So it's the additional health benefits that most people typically are not going to get with a regular workout.
That's for sure. How about the final one, which is posture? Can you explain a little bit about posture and how important it is and how it's incorporated into the workout?
Big thing is for a lot of people, when they think about posture, they think about the aesthetic properties of posture, right? Like, oh, I don't want rounded shoulders. I don't want a forward head. And they're just thinking of the looks of the posture. But every time, for your ear, your shoulder, your hip, your knee, and your ankle should all line up. And if they're not lined up, you're stressing certain tissues out, wherever that misalignment is. So for every inch my head is forward, it's like putting an additional, so the human head weighs about 10 pounds, 10 to 12 pounds. So for every inch you go forward, it's like doubling the weight of your head. So it puts all this tension on this neck musculature. It leaves you very vulnerable to headaches and neck problems and shoulder problems. And so with posture, what we're looking at is rebalancing something called length tension relationships. And all that means is certain muscles have a propensity to become short and tight. So we want to do more stretching there. Certain muscles have a propensity to become weakened. We want to strengthen those, rebalance the musculature. Posture is all about balance in the musculature. And if you lack balance in the musculature, it's the number one reason why people end up getting hurt. It's the number one reason for orthopedic problems. And so what do? They will work around that injury, or maybe they'll mask the symptom of that pain, but they don't ever go to the root cause, which many times is muscle imbalances. And the one thing that's crucial for people to understand is muscles are designed to absorb force, right? So if you're walking, you're running, you're jumping, you're using a mouse pad, you're bending over, if your muscles can absorb that force, even if you're bending over, that's half your body weight in that position is loading the disc if your muscles aren't working. So if the muscles can absorb the force, it's going into a joint. And that's why we have to make sure we have harmony and balance. Otherwise, people are just, again, they're going to get hurt. And this is all about being safe, number one, when you work out. And then number two, it's being efficient, right? Are we getting the most bang for our buck?
That's for sure. I mean, so many people go into a workout already feeling in pain or feeling out of balance. And so many women carry so much tension here. And then you think about, like, if they have tight pec muscles, they're pulling their head forward, and we have less musculature than men do. And so that really can wreak havoc on just how much more pain that we're experiencing there. I see that a lot.
Well, all those areas you pointed out,
Yeah.
have their roots in faulty respiratory mechanics.
Mm.
Because when you're breathing vertically, all these neck muscles, these are called accessory respiratory muscles. These get tight. Your chest muscles in here, these are called accessory respiratory muscles, the pec minor. And so all those muscles get tight. It leads to more of a rounding, and it creates a lot of, it'd be like shrugging 20 to 25,000 times a day if you're breathing like that. So yeah, I mean, posture can definitely be dictated by faulty breathing mechanics. So got to look at all those things.
Yeah, for sure. That's the total 8 elements. Is there anything else you want to go through around the elements of the workout? Or does it feel pretty good?
Yeah, I think
I had another question for you.
Yeah, that gives people a pretty good idea of, I mean, and you think about this. The name of the program is Simply Fit, right? And because there's no equipment involved, I will use yoga blocks just to make certain exercises easier and certain exercises harder. But it's very simple in, getting back to how the human body is designed to move. But you can see the complexities that are involved in, putting some of these programs together. I mean, most people wouldn't have the first clue of, some of these elements I've talked about and their importance. And, they're kind of going through the motions. And even, I mean, obviously we've been in the space for a long time, and there's some fabulous trainers out there, and there's some fabulous therapists out there, but the stuff I hear on a regular basis, it's not so good, and, because I'm always getting reports from, okay, what did you do in exercise? Show me your form. And okay, well, looking at your form, let me tell you why you got hurt. Or, people that are struggling really producing results, the reason they're not getting results is because, the programs are poorly designed. So yeah, it's simple in terms of, just how the body works, but the human body's so complex, and what I've tried to do is, do all the homework and, dig into all the science, and then try and synthesize all this and then package it into a program. All people have to do is do it. So.
Which is just absolutely awesome to be able to just have one workout that incorporates all of this. There's so much. And especially when you're in this time of your life, whether you're male or female, but menopause, andropause. I mean, I think that's a big time within, 40s to, pretty much 40s to 60s, where you're still taking care of kids, and you're taking care of your parents that are aging. So it's just a really stressful time for so many people. And to be able to have something that's all encompassing is just wonderful. We're so excited to be able to show people this new way of living that saves them time and actually improves their health, and helps them to be less prone to injury, which is pretty darn cool. So yeah, I just think workout is so amazing. What a great way to incorporate everything that people will need moving forward as they age. Is there anything else that you wanted to say before we end this?
Yeah, the one thing is, I say it's the last workout you'll ever need. And what I mean by that is it's the elements within the workout that are the last elements you'll ever need, because regardless of what you're doing for your workouts, what you'll start to find, when you really understand this, is how many holes or how many gaps are in your workout. And then also, from, we talked about mindset on the last, or mindfulness on the last video. You have to really become more in tune with how your body feels, and just how you're moving, in that connection with your brain and your body. And I just want to kind of leave people with this. One of the number one reasons why people end up, I think, not only not getting great results but getting injured is people never take the time to build a strong foundation. And couple analogies I like to use is, if you go and you see where they're building a new skyscraper, you'll see a big hole in the ground for weeks and weeks, and you're like, my gosh, they're not getting anything done. Well, they're taking all the time to build that foundation, and then all of a sudden, boom, the building's up. Or you think about building your dream home, having everything you could possibly want in your dream home. Well, you're not going to want to build it on a crappy foundation, right? You want to make sure it's on a good foundation. So it all boils down to, you gotta, build your foundation, and the aesthetics will come. I guarantee, if you focus on, again, it's kind of that time horizon. We have to make sure we're committed to focusing on something for 6 months or a year. I just can't believe every time I do this workout myself, there's something I can feel I'm improving on. My flexibility is getting a little bit better. My strength is getting a little bit better. Cardio is getting a little bit better. Like, everything I'm just monitoring. But the big thing is how I feel with the movement. And so just trying to perfect the fluidity of the movement and just be more graceful. And, ideally, that's what we want when we get older. We want to be strong. We want to be graceful. We want to be, free from pain. And the only way we do that is by coming up with strategies that allow us to do that. Right?
Yeah, right. Well, I hope everybody got a ton of information out of this, because I sure did, and learned a lot about how you should work out and how important this new workout is, and how we're so excited about it. We'll be going through more information, more videos before the new year, talking more about this program, and we're super excited about it. If you have any questions, please let us know. And in any of the way that you can let us know in any way, Facebook, or you can contact us, email, any way you want to contact us. But we will be giving out more information on different ways to learn more about this. Anyways, we hope you all have a wonderful day, and look forward to hearing all your thoughts on it as we continue to roll this out.
See you later.
Bye.